So with that in mind, and I'm going to address this first question to the opposing side, what can these paper facsimiles best be used for, if anything? And for example, should they be construed as ballots of record, a paper trail, a receipt, or something else? What do we do with this paper notion? Ms. Smith?
Somehow I knew that was coming to me. Well, I think it's tempting to say that in this scenario they should probably be used as the ballot of record, in which case the kiosks become ballot marking devices, but you might as well use a traditional absentee ballot in such a situation, and then you've got a kind of a redundancy. If it's going to make any sense at all, you have to have the paper copies be binding as audit trails, and there has to be an understanding that under appropriate circumstances, when there's a conflict between the paper and the electronic counts, the paper should resolve in favor of the paper, rather. You don't want them as a receipt because of the issues of vote buying and other concerns. So I guess that would be the issue, but again, the redundancy comes up. I mean, paper trails on direct recording electronic voting machines are subject to a variety of threats. If a voter-verified paper record is generated, the voter has to be encouraged to review it because it's her vote. And if that doesn't happen, there are significant hacks which can alter those records and can revert to correct printing only if checked. There's any number of issues, but I think that chain of custody is going to be key so that it can be used as a document for auditing purposes.
Thank you. To the proponents, 1 minute response to the same question. Mr. Hall.
In the American context, for UOCAVA voters, the reason to have the electronic votes count is because they have to be received by an election official at a specific time, and it may not be possible to transmit any sort of paper during that time frame. But in this case, the benefit of having paper is that you do have a paper trail receipt. A process like that was used in Okaloosa County, where they had these as an audit trail, and it was a very effective way of providing voters with a confidence that there was a backup in case there was some sort of problem with their electronic ballot.
Thank you. So the second question then, someone raised this one, so it's going to go right back to that side. Are there chain of custody issues in the handling of these paper records that would be different for an overseas voting setting compared to a domestic voting setting? Mr. Seves.
Yeah.
And you briefly tell us what they might be.
Okay. Well,
You now have 50 seconds.
Yeah, that's fine. I think it's a matter of familiarity and invention. So I was talking to Carol earlier, and I was talking about the transportation of the Okaloosa County officials of all the election evidence, including the paper records to be used for later audits on commercial airliners. So I think it's longer distances, more complexity, more hard work, greater difficulty of demonstrating the chain of custody. And so it's the same issue, but more work. But I should stress it's also for a similar benefit, which is that in the scenario you describe, we can have something that's notionally similar to DREs with paper records, where the votes are electronically counted, and in this case transmitted for speed, but you still have auditability. And that's a good common goal, but a lot rides on the feasibility at large scale of transporting all this physical election evidence back to where it belongs.
Thank you. To the other side, 1 minute response to this. Are there chain of custody issues in the handling of these paper records that would be different for an overseas vote setting compared to a domestic voting setting? Mr. Martin?
Well, let me address the very fundamental of the paper trails. Well, who says the printing software is not, falsified? What if the electronic results and the paper results would differ? what is better then? Those fundamental questions, I never got a good answer for that. And therefore, I think the paper trail is useless.
30-second rebuttal to the side that paper trails are useless. Ms. Kurz?
Well, let me just ask. When you have to count the paper ballots afterwards, anyway, why would you introduce an internet voting system when you have to count the paper afterwards? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. The paper ballot discussion in the whole shows the problem that we have with those systems, because there will be differences in the results, and you have to count the papers afterwards. Well, why would you introduce it in the first place?
Thank you.